Hey everybody, I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Thanks for joining me on a Monday night. My special guest tonight is one of the greatest singer-songwriters in all of country music. He has written some country music gold, including One More Day and Jeannie Seeley's current song, if you could call it that. He was a co-writer on that. And he's a Grammy, CMA, ACM nominee. And he's won so many accolades, and he deserves every one of them. And he's got a brand new single we're going to talk about tonight, and he's got some great stories to share with us. And I'm very happy to have him back on the show. This is Bobby Tomberlin. Bobby, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Scott. It's such an honor to be back on your show because I listen to your show. I think I've told you before, a lot of times when I'm getting ready to go to sleep at night, I'm a late nighter. It might be 1:30. Then I'll see one of your new shows, and I start listening, and I'm like, oh, no, I can't listen I'll be up till 3, and sure enough, I'm up till 3 or 30. But you do a great job. You really do.
Well, thank you very much, and it's all due to people like you that I get to have on the show. That's I can't take any credit for it. I'm just putting it all together,
Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
Well, you've got a brand new single that has just hit here on August the 6th, a very humbling song, and it really tells a lot of stories within the song, and I'm anxious to hear more about it. It's called I've Lived Country Music, and you certainly have.
That's a good example of a song that I wasn't trying to write a song when that came about. I had just been to Loretta Lynn's 4th of July celebration. I was asked to sing one of the old Conway-Loretta duets with her. Lead Me On was the song. And the next morning, I saw the video, and I saw pictures, and I was just, so humbled, and, I can't believe I shared a stage and sang with Loretta Lynn. I couldn't believe it when it was happening, because as a kid down in Alabama, I went to see Conway and Loretta. I'll never forget, in Montgomery, Alabama, at the Civic Center, Jerry Clower opened the show. And here's this queen of country, and I'm me singing with her, and then I just started thinking about other, so many other memories and things I've been blessed to do. And next thing you know, in 15 minutes, that song was written. It was like one of the easiest songs I've ever been a part of, and I played it for a few people, and they just, Mo Pitney, I remember telling me, he said, that's one of my favorite songs you've ever been a part of or ever written. And I just kind of put it in a stack of songs, thinking that, when I get ready to do another full project, I would include it on there. And a few weeks ago, I was in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, a wonderful music town with so much history. And I was just down there, it's only 2 hours from Nashville, and just kind of getting away for the weekend. And I just thought, well, I'm going to stumble in Wishbone Studios. My friend Billy Lawson, a great writer and producer, he owns it now. And his truck was there, and I went in, and next thing you know, I'm booking studio time, and I'm back in Muscle Shoals in 2 weeks. Wow. And recording this project with him producing, and the studio it's magic. It's just like walking into 1979. Hank Williams Jr. really found his sound there. He recorded Family Tradition there. And, then people like Roy Orbison and different ones through the years. And recently, T. Graham Brown, Sammy Kershaw, Shannon Doe. I think Randy Owens is going to do something there soon. So it's just, something about that music town and that river. But anyway, it's just, I'm really proud of it. I really am, and have a very special video to go with it. I was going to, do the typical part of it, singing, part of it, pictures, and I have so many pictures of special moments. I just thought, you know what, let this just be a video full of memories.
Well, you mentioned recording in a historic studio, and it's so great that there are studios like that are still around, like the RCA studios and Hilltop Studio and so many of these great places. And these studios have good bones, and there's just something magical about being able to record there. And it's just that little bit of just a top-notch better. No matter what you do, it just sounds better coming from those studios. I don't know if it's the aura or what it is, but, man, it's there's a difference there.
I agree with you. I'm actually sitting here at my publisher, Curb Word Publishing on Music Row, and our building is across the street from RCA Studio B and A, and every day. I never take it for granted, Scott. I always look over there and I think, well, there's where Porter and Dolly cut. There's where the Everly Brothers cut. There's where Dottie West, Charlie Pride, Elvis. We could go on and on.
Yeah. Well, folks, this song is called I've Lived Country Music, and it's available at BobbyTomberlinMusic.com, and, of course, everywhere that you download your songs these days, you can find that.
Down in Alabama, in a 2 red light town, my world revolved around the radio. And in my little bedroom, the Opry came alive. And in my mind, I was on the front row. I counted down the years till I could drive that old highway to the city where all my dreams could come true. There's been a lot of hard times, but they were all worth it as I look back at all the things I've got to do. Well, I sang with Loretta, wrote songs with Whispering Bill. I even got to play Hank's guitar. Rode the roads with little Jimmy, shook hands with Johnny Cash. Funny how a dream can take you far. I poured my heart and soul into it. Yes, I've lived country music. I sold groceries to Conway Twitty when I first came to Nashville, and Mel Tillis paid my rent. I got to tell Merle Haggard how much his songs meant to me. I swear his words were heaven sent. I was at the Ryman with Bo Cephas in a small room with Glenn Campbell. He played Galveston and I sang along. Had a smoke with Christopherson. Willie Nelson sang my song. I hung out with old George Jones at his home. I poured my heart and soul into it. Yes, I've lived country music. Ate biscuits and gravy with Porter Wagner. Wrote a song with Bobby Bear. Heard Phil Everly sing Dream in his living room. Was with Eddie Arnold in his last days. I played on the Opry stage, and I could feel the spirit of Hank Williams in that room. I've given my heart and soul to it. Yes, I've lived country music. Yes, I've lived country music. And I've lived country music.
You've been blessed to be around a lot of great people, Bobby, and I know that you and Tess Frizzell are spending a lot of time together, and that's I cannot say enough good things about the Frizzell family. Every single one of them, I love them dearly, and they've treated me just like family, and I know they do you too.
They really do. I mean, such a talented family. I mean, that goes without saying. And then Tess, she's quite the songwriter. I don't think she realized really what a great writer she is. But then again, how could she not be? I mean, come on. I mean, her dad, Alan, Lefty, David, then you got Dottie, her West, her grandmother, then Shelley, her mother. I mean, it's like I always say with the Williams family, there's a few cases where it is just in the blood.
Yeah.
Alan actually came over. I did a Facebook Live from the Hank Snow Rainbow Ranch about 3 weeks ago, and Buddy Cannon, who has just been inducted, is going to be inducted into the Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame. Buddy and Alan came over, and man, Alan, talk about stories. He has the stories, and that was really fun doing it in that historic house where, again, so many legends have been. You know, the Carter family came there and visited Hank Snow. Hank Sr. went there to pitch Jambalaya to Hank Snow, and of course Hank rejected it. And Ernest Tubb, and do you know that house is actually an Airbnb? You can rent that house.
Oh, wow.
I mean, everything works. I mean, it feels just great. If you want to feel like 1950, how it was to live, or if you did live during that time, you can revisit that time. I mean, the same furniture, the same table where Hank and Elvis sat at, and it's really cool, so you should check it out, Hank Snow Rainbow Ranch.
Bobby, I want to ask you about a couple of things that you mentioned in your song. You mentioned playing Hank Sr.'s guitar.
Yeah, that's a great story. I was out at Marty Stewart and Connie Smith's house a few years ago, and Connie and I were just about to start writing, and Marty came in the room, and he had this guitar. And he says, "Here, man, use this one today." And I said, "What's the story?" And he said, "This was one of Hank Williams' guitars." And I was like, wow. Or, I mean, and it was so funny when Connie would leave the room, maybe go into the kitchen, I would sit there real softly and play one of Hank Sr.'s songs on it. And that, I mean, moments like that, I mean, they're just, it's hard to explain, you know, what a gift.
I know you've been involved with the Hank Williams Museum, and you were doing some Facebook live videos during the pandemic from there, too.
You know what? I did 11 of those.
Wow.
And we had, actually, Tess Brazell came and was on one of them live, performed live, and we performed right in front of Hank's blue Cadillac, the car that he passed away in. And I had a lot of artists call in and do interviews, and that was kind of fun because that kind of took me back to the radio days, you know, when I was younger in my teens, and Bill Anderson, Vince Gill, Josh Turner, Pam Tillis, Jeannie Seeley, bunch of people. We had about 32 people, I think, that actually called in during that time. And we helped raise money to keep the museum going during, you know, the pandemic, during the time of closure. And it really was amazing. The people, man, they bought memorabilia and they bought lifetime memberships to the museum. And we would, like, you know, every week, anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800, and that really adds up.
Yeah, that's
during
great.
a time when you're shut down.
You had mentioned in the song too Eddie Arnold. Tell me a little bit about Eddie Arnold.
Oh gosh, you know, Eddie Arnold was another one of those guys. When I was a kid growing up, my grandparents and my mom and dad, that Eddie Arnold records were in the collection, and I, you know, I love just great music. I mean, Hank Williams Sr., I guess, was my first inspiration. But, you know, I'd hear these songs by Ray Price and Eddie Arnold, like Make the World Go Away, or, you know, What's He Doing in My World? And I love those melodies. I love that classy production. You know, it was really cool, the Nashville sound. And, you know, I was writing songs for Mel Tillis. He was my first publisher, and Eddie Arnold was supposed to be on a Ralph Emery show on TNN, and my mom and dad were coming up, and I got tickets, and then I noticed his name had been removed. Well, Mel Tillis had Eddie's office number, and I just called it, and he had this sweet secretary that worked for him over 50 years named Roberta, and I just told her, you know, my story, like I had tickets, my folks were coming up. She's like, yeah, Mr. Arnold had to cancel. What are you doing Thursday at 2 o'clock? Will they be here? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, we'll be here at Eddie's office in Brentwood. I said, oh, no, I'm not expecting that. And she was like, no, we insist. Come by and let them meet Mr. Arnold. So we did, and just hit it off. And my dad and him talked a lot about gardens and boiled peanuts and stuff like that you find down in the South. And next thing I know, my dad's sending him tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes from the garden, and I drop them by, and next thing you know, I'm going to lunch with him, and I guess that started about 1993, and we probably had lunch almost every week, at least once a week, until, a few months before he passed away.
Wow.
Just a wonderful guy, and he had a dear friend. His best friend was Bobby Campbell, who had a glass company. And we just had the best time, and would have lunch with a lot of different artists and radio people and different friends and talk about stories. Mr. Arnold had seen it all. His career started in the 40s, and he finally got a hit. I remember him telling me he finally got a hit, and then the factory that made the records, it was like, a shellac factory. They didn't have any more shellac. It was during the Depression time. And he says, there I had a hit, and they couldn't make any more records to sell. So I'm just saying he saw it all. I mean, think about it. The old breakable 78s into vinyl and 8-tracks, cassette, CDs. I mean, then that man had a hit in every decade, a chart record in every decade.
I know you worked at a Kroger grocery store, and you've got a couple funny stories about Mel Tillis and Conway Twitty.
Yeah, well, in my song, I've lived country music. In the second verse, it's like I sold groceries to Conway Twitty when I first came to Nashville, and Mel Tillis paid my rent. And as I said earlier, Mel Tillis paid me $100 a week to write for his company. I was a new writer. I was glad to get that money. But I had to, get another gig to make some more money, and I worked at a Kroger grocery store here in Nashville. And one night, there was a robbery, actually. One night, these guys came in with a ski mask, and luckily no one was hurt, and they did catch them. I actually ran. When they jumped the counter and got into the safe, I ran and jumped off the loading dock and called 911. Anyway, they caught them and called me to court. But another funny Kroger story, one day Mel Tillis was in the office from Branson, and he was getting ready to record a gospel record. And he looked at me and he said, I'm going to go out to Mount Juliet and talk to Owen Bradley. I want him to be a part of this record and work on it. And he said, do you want to ride out there with me? I said, well, I have to be at work at 4 at Kroger. And he's like, well, I can give you an excuse. I can write you an excuse, and you can take it in. And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I'd never met Owen Bradley. And, of course, he was the first one that ever built a studio in Nashville, the Quatson Hut. And he produced, as you know, and I'm sure most of the listeners know, Bill Anderson, Ernest Tubb, Patsy Cline, Kitty Wells, and the list goes on and on, Conway and Loretta. So, boy, what a great, we were there maybe 2.5, 3 hours, and they just shared old memories. And then when I came back, he wrote an excuse for me to take into the Kroger manager and literally said, please excuse Bobby. I had to keep him over today. You know what's funny? The manager, it was an older lady, and her eyes got big. She was like, I love Mel Tillis. And she didn't even, didn't give me a hard time at all. And I'd give anything if I'd have made a copy of that.
You mentioned Conway Twitty, too.
Yeah, he would come in every Wednesday. Isn't that funny that I can actually remember the day? But what it was, he was off the road, I guess, midweek. And he and his wife would come in the Kroger shopping after they ate at a place called the Bellmead Buffet. It's no longer there in this little shopping center, but they would eat there and then walk over and shop at Kroger. And, that was the Bellmead Kroger. That's where I was assigned to work. So that was very much a wealthy neighborhood. And it was so funny when he would walk in, even these wealthy people there in the Bellmead area, they would actually ask him for autographs. I saw a lot of older, I just know they were very, very well-off ladies would walk up and ask Conway Twitty for an autograph, or they probably wouldn't ask that of anyone else. But he just had this, this thing about him when he walked in. I mean, you just stopped and you would look that direction. You could just feel, a presence. Like Johnny Cash had that, and Hank Williams Jr. has that, too.
You certainly have been writing a lot of great songs that other people have had. I mentioned Jeannie Seeley's song, if I could call it that. It's kind of a unique story. It was kind of finished based on a Dottie West line, and I know that you and Steve Warner worked on that and finished that up.
Well, Ron Harmon, who works with the Country Music Hall of Fame and RCA Studio B, found some old, was going through some of Dottie's old stuff, I guess, with Shelley West, and found these composition books of these songs that were started. And I guess this book, it looked like maybe it was started in the 60s. And anyway, with Shelley's approval, he asked me to look through the book and maybe find something and finish it if I'd like. And I just thought, what an honor. And I found this. It wasn't just the title. I mean, she had a few lines. I just go on living, if you could call it that. And I thought, I didn't know Dottie. Only one time, maybe twice, I saw her at the Opry. I won't ever forget, she was coming in late one night. I was standing in front of Roy Acuff's dressing room, and she and her entourage, they came running down the hall, and she kind of bumped into me, and she looked back and smiled and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and patted me on the shoulder. But I've never forgotten that. I mean, it was like a country queen, walked in the building. But I'm like, I didn't know her, and I thought it was only right, if I called someone to help me out on the song that knew her. And, of course, she discovered Steve Warner, brought him to town. He's such a great writer. And we've written a lot through the years. So I called Steve, and he says, "I would love to work on this." And we did. Such a magical day. Before we started writing, he shared me, the story of how he met Dottie. He was playing in a little band, I guess, in Indiana, and they were opening Dottie's show, and at that show, she asked him to be her guitar player and brought him to town. And anyway, we finished it, and he and I both says, "Boy, Jeannie Seely, she could really sing this song." And I sent the work tape to Jeannie, and she was like, "I want to record this." And she was doing this new record for Curb Records, and she recorded it, and Steve came in and sang harmony, and it's just such a great, great recording. And, it's in the Music Row charts.
Yeah.
And how cool is that for Jeannie Seely to have another chart record, and with a song that a new Dottie West song. And it's such an honor, such a thrill to see my name beside Dottie and Steve's.
I get up every morning, have my coffee, gather my things, jump right in that same old traffic. Welcome to my routine. And then at work I hear a voice, "How you doing?" Someone asks. I just go on living, if you could call it that. 5 o'clock rolls around, I meet up with some friends. I try to smile, but all the while it's just pretend. Another glass of wine, a few more jokes, I try to laugh. I just go on living, if you could call it that. I'm just going through the emotions, half of me still with you. It's like I'm stranded out on the ocean, and you're not here to pull me through. I'm like a child who's lost her way, just can't find her way back. I just go on living, if you could call it that. a child who's lost her way, just can't find her way back. I just go on living, if you could call it that.
Another one too. This is a pretty big deal too. Is Willie Nelson and Barbra Streisand duet. That's pretty amazing.
Well, I didn't see that one coming. Barbra, she's pretty much untouchable. How do you get to Barbra Streisand? How do you pitch a song to Barbra Streisand? But the truth is, I had a song on her partner's record she and Blake Shelton recorded that I wrote with Steve Dorff and Jay Landers, who works with Barbra and is one of her producers. And Steve knew Jay, and he's had some songs recorded by Barbra before. And that was the way, that we got to Barbra. And then here we, during the pandemic, Steve calls me and he's like, "You're not going to believe it, but, this song that Barbra and Willie started recording a couple of years ago," he says, she wants to go back, revisit it, and maybe redo some vocals and put it on her new record. And then it's a single. That's the highlight for me. I always tell people the friendships, that's the real highlight for me being in this business. But when you get songs recorded by people like a Willie, Barbra, or just some of these icons and people that I grew up listening to, that's quite a special thing. And that's another one of those songs. So when I listen to it, I just can't believe Willie Nelson singing, and the guy that wrote "Crazy" and "Hello Walls," singing something that I co-wrote. I'm just so thankful. I just thank God for things like this. Bart Herbison with the Nashville Songwriters Association, he always says, "Well, Bobby, you love the music so much it loves you back," and maybe he's right. Maybe that's it.
That goes for almost anything but us.
Always have, and I always will remain. Words from a heart that you can trust.
While others come and go, you can always know I'm here for you whenever you might need me.
Sometimes, if you're lucky, you find that certain someone you can always count on
to be true.
To be true.
If I had a choice of only one friend in this world, you know that I'd want it to be you. You're still kind of crazy after all these years.
You'll always be that funny girl to me.
Oh, thanks, Willie. Season to season,
We'll always have a reason
to be the best of friends that we can be.
someone you can turn to.
I'll turn to you
every minute of the day.
Warm memories to hold on to that will never fade away. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you find that certain someone you can always count on to be true. If I had the choice of only one friend in this world, you know that I'd want it to be you. You're like a sweet familiar song,
a a good book when I'm alone,
a cup of coffee when I'm cold,
and a country road that leads me home.
Oh, you know that sometimes if you're lucky, you find that certain someone
you can always count on to be true.
To be true.
If I had the choice of only one friend in this world,
you know that I'd want it to be you.
When I get on the road again, you'll be always on my mind.
We'll stay the way we were, forever true.
There's no one in this world that's been
a better friend to me than you. Can I ride on your bus sometime, Willie?
Come on, Barb, let's get on this bus.
And you've got some other great songs. Rhonda Vincent was on my show recently, and we talked about Like I Could, and that's a gorgeous song. And I know that you've got, Pam Tillis, Mo Pitney, Josh Turner, all recorded your songs recently. I mean, you were just, you're very productive, and you're putting out some great music.
Well, I was writing with a new artist today, and I told him, I says, I'm just as hungry and excited now as I was when I got here, and I'm so thankful for that, because so many times people get jaded, and believe me, I've had my moments, but I think after getting through last year, it makes me even more grateful. It makes me so thankful to be able to come into this company. I've been with this company, Curb, now for 26 years, and they've been so loyal, and they have just continued to believe in me. They pitch my songs. They set me up with other songwriters and other artists. And I'm just repeating myself, I know, but I'm just really thankful.
Well, I know you've been working with a lot of different songwriters and helping out new songwriters, but you've also been working with the likes of Bill Anderson. And I got to see Bill in the studio a few years ago, and I was there with Freddie Hart. And Freddie always carried around this big envelope full of songs. And the next thing I know, they're sitting in the little lounge there, and they're going through this folder of songs. And here's Freddie and Bill Anderson just hunched right over, looking at all these songs and making notes and everything. And I thought, wow, that is some magic right there. Bill Anderson is one of the best in the business when it comes to songwriting.
He really is, and he inspires me. I mean, he's, again, as you know, his first hits, I think 1959, 58. So he's been having hits every decade, and he knows how to change, with things, but at the same time stay true to himself. And it's such a thrill. We've probably written 30, maybe even 40 songs. I mean, we've been writing songs now for 20 years.
Wow.
Say 95. Oh, no, more like 25. I can't believe that. 25 years we've been writing songs. And we've had a lot of songs recorded. But again, number one, I'm grateful for his friendship. I was his sound engineer before I started really getting songs recorded, so I was able to tour the country with him.
Wow,
and
really?
Got to meet a lot of, my heroes. During that time, really got to know little Jimmy Dickens, Jeannie Seeley, Jan Howard, Bobby Bear. And it was just a great experience.
Well, like your song says, I've lived country music, that's for sure. You have.
I guess I have. I mean, at first I'm like, God, do I have the license to say that? But the truth is, I really do. I had a make-believe, I've told you this, I had a make-believe radio station in my bedroom when I was a kid, and then I started being a disc jockey at age 11, and I really did. I went to press conferences, for Alabama, the group Alabama, and interviewed Johnny Cash, Tammy Wynette, Keith Whitley, Earl Scruggs, Ray Price. I could go on and on and on. little radio station, WLVN, Luverne, Alabama, 500 watts, and there's Johnny Cash doing an interview.
Wow. You're leaving your mark on country music with all these wonderful songs. You know, you're leaving your own legacy, and that's something that people are going to look back on in years to come and say, you know, I knew Bobby Tomberlin, and I got to spend time with him writing songs, and you're really paying it forward, and I applaud you for that.
God, thank you so much. And you know, again, every year, you know, you meet another hero or someone that, you know, you've always wanted to work with. I know you have Jeannie C. Riley on your show a lot, and I met her in Carthage a couple of years ago at the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame show, and she's really a great person, and I love your interviews with her, and she was so sweet to me when I was, you know, we were going through a hard time with my mother last year. She would send her cards and to the hospital and pray, and that's the wonderful thing when you meet these people and they're just you know, so kind and so loving. That's really something special.
She sure is something special. And one of the songs, and folks, again, I do want to mention, we're talking to Bobby Tomberlin. BobbyTomberlinMusic.com is the website. The brand new song is I've Lived Country Music. One of the songs I want to ask you about, Bobby, and I want to play this tonight. You just sent it to me. I had not had a chance to hear it prior to this, but it's called A Song for Charles.
Yes, that's on a CD called Midnight, and it's kind of a tribute to Hank Williams and just songs about Hank Williams, and there have been many, but when I was asked to do this project, I didn't want to just do the same old, and I remembered a song that I wrote with Larry Gatlin called Song for Charles, and we wrote that song on a Monday following the funeral of Charles Carr, who drove Hank Williams on his last ride. I actually sang at that funeral. I sang the Hank Williams song, A House of Gold.
Wow. And
the following Monday, you know, Larry Gatlin and I got together, and he's like, what did you do this weekend? I said, well, I sang at Charles Carr, the driver for Hank and the Blue Cadillac, his funeral. And he was like, really? Did you ever meet him? Did you know him? I said, I met him one time about a year and a half before he passed. And for some reason, he was just very open with me, and he felt safe, and he told me some pretty amazing stories, like on the way to the shows, how they stopped in Fort Payne, Alabama, for Hank to get a haircut. And he said, you know, this little downtown where you could see in the, you know, the window, and Hank Williams is getting a haircut, sitting in this old-fashioned barber chair, and then dozens of people are gathered around looking in the window. Then he told me about stopping at a cafe in Chattanooga, and he said Hank Williams left a $50 tip for the waitress, and he says, have you ever had a big tip before? And she said, yes, sir. She said, I had a $25 tip. And he said, well, he asked, who left that? And the waitress said, you did, Mr. Williams.
Oh, wow.
And he told me also that the last thing that he heard Hank say or sing, it actually was sing. He was singing Midnight, the old Red Foley song. Can you imagine that, driving down this dark road in that blue Cadillac, and there's Hank Williams singing Midnight, loneliest time of the day, thinking of you. I mean, so anyway, I shared some of those stories with Larry, and we wrote that song, and then they used it for this special project. And you can buy this CD at the Hank Williams Museum. You can go to their website, Montgomery Hank Williams Museum.
I met him down in Montgomery, Alabama, at the old Elite Cafe. It had been 59 years since his old friend had passed away. And he said, believe it or not, my name is Charles Carr. They gave me $400 to drive Hank Williams' car to that country show up in Ohio on New Year's Day, 1953. The very first country music tragedy. my place behind the wheel. Oh, Hank climbed in the back. We hightailed it out of Montgomery in that light blue Cadillac. And all the folks up in Ohio were looking forward to the show in the coming year. But old Hank had a feeling he wasn't long for here. Well, old Hank was right that night. His heart just stopped in West Virginia. What in the hell was an 18-year-old boy supposed to do? I sure wasn't Jesus. I couldn't heal the worn-out heart that wrote, I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. I headed back to Alabama in that sad Cadillac. Lord knows, after all, somebody had to drive it back. And on that lonesome road, with the radio on, listening to Mr. Williams sing me back to the biggest funeral Montgomery had ever seen. Well, old Hank was right that night. His heart just stopped in West Virginia. What in the hell was an 18-year-old boy supposed to do? I sure wasn't Jesus. I couldn't heal the worn-out heart that wrote, I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. Believe it or not, my name is Charles Carr. They gave me $400 to drive Hank Williams' car.
You're starting to do shows again, and things are finally opening back up, and we are going to be very happy to have you back in Michigan here. In fact, later this week, you're going to be at the high school in Beaverton, Michigan. That's on August 19th. That's on Thursday night, and you and Mo Pitney will be on that show. And then the following night, August the 20th, you're going to be in Oscoda as well, and that's a wonderful school down there, nice auditorium. I was down there with David Frizzell a couple years ago. And WolverineProductions.org is that website. You can get tickets for that, and these shows benefit our firemen and policemen, and great cause, and you'll hear a fantastic show. And Bobby, tell me a little bit about what you and Mo do on these shows.
Oh, these are some of the most fun shows. I mean, I just always, look at it like we're just at someone's big living room. Of course, it's, gymnasiums or auditoriums or theaters, but I just kind of present it like that. Like, hey, we're just going to have a good time this evening and tell stories and play some music. And, we sing our songs, and then we'll just break in. Like one of the last shows we did, it was just a month ago, I guess, in Cairo. We just started breaking into old country standards. Like I would do a Buck Owens song, and Mo would sing harmony with me. Then he'd do a Don Williams, I'd do a Hank Williams, and then he would do Merle Haggard. And we did a whole segment of just singing songs, and the people just loved that. And then, we'll tell story. I'll tell the story about One More Day that was recorded by Diamond Rio that I co-wrote, and Mo will talk about one of his songs. I mean, it's just intimate. It's like I said, it's just a fun time. Some of the most fun shows that I do.
Again, folks, WolverineProductions.org is the website, and that information's on our Facebook page for My Kind of Country. Be sure and check out these great shows coming up later this week. And Bobby, what else is happening for you later on this year?
Well, going to be going out to Carthage again. Well, they had to cancel it last year, but the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame show, that's going to be a big weekend. The Michigan shows, some more shows in Alabama and around Nashville, just kind of all over the map. A festival down in the Fort Myers, Florida area. again, just so glad to be back out there again. And, you know, and writing songs. I mean, I actively write every week. Like I said, I'm going into soon be the 27th year with Curb Word Publishing. And, you know, I'm always writing a song or either trying to find the inspiration. So doing that and, you know, just continuing to promote this new song, I've Lived Country Music. We've had such a great response. Been doing a lot of interviews. WSM, home of the Grand Ole Opry, it's like their spotlight artist song. You know, it was just their artist spotlight song of the week. And surprisingly, a lot of radio stations just reaching out, because this isn't your typical, you know, kind of song that you're hearing on the radio these days, but a lot of people, they've been giving it a spin, and I really appreciated that.
Well, BobbyTomberlinMusic.com is the website, folks. Be sure to check that out. Pick up that new song, I've Lived Country Music, and, of course, some of Bobby's other fantastic songs and albums that he's got available there as well. And we're going to play some more of that great music for you right now as we continue with My Kind of Country. Bobby, thanks again for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Scott.